Okay, so there's a lot of things that happened in the last couple of days. SpaceX just bought Cursor today for like 60 bill or something like that, right after their IPO. Anthropic had their best model banned from usage outside of the US. A lot of things are outside our control, right? So smaller models are back. AI sovereignty is back. So today I want to give you some pointers as to like how you can hedge against if this was were ever to happen to you, and maybe it affects the way your team does work or your product works, so you don't have any downtime and you don't like have to scramble to figure it out. If you had a model from one of these big labs and in your product, and all of a sudden they just took it away, what are some of the things you can do to kind of not run into that issue, right? So first of all, I gotta think about a couple different things. I think about six things. Number one is harnesses. So a harness is basically just the software layer that runs around the model. It gives the model the ability to call different tools, which in turns make a model an agent. It's just a piece of software. And if you were to use something like Claude Code or Codex, then those harnesses, the software around OpenAI and Anthropic models, usually work the best with their own models. They're not. I mean, I think Claude Code, for example, you can point to a different API kind of router, and then you can use like even local models or models from other providers. But there's obviously caveats to that. Obviously, like the team at Anthropic did not build a harness for those models. But there are other harnesses out there that are built to work with any models. For example, we got Pi, we got Deep Agent. We also have the new upcoming AI SDK 7 Agent Harness. The last piece is a little bit interesting. I'll talk about that a little bit. But for Pi, for example, Pi is a open source harness that has very lightweight system prompts, which means it's not gonna be out of the box burning a bunch of tokens. So if you ever were to use like Claude Code, you use Fable 5, you tell it to do one thing, it'll just burn out 20% of your usage. Pi is not going to do that. Pi is unopinionated. You kind of like use it, and then it kind of molds into your workflow, which is really cool. A lot of my friends use this, and this gets shipped with OpenClaw. That's why people know about this. It's lightweight. You can mold it into anything, even for like non-coding workflows. And then there's Deep Agent, right? So there's Deep Agent. Deep Agent's from a team at LangChain. This has been in the development for like quite some time, and then it's been used from like any company from like Fortune 100 to like startups. It's battle tested. It was built with a lot of like nice things built in. So for example, an interface for file system, interface for sub agents, human in the loop, sandbox support. The reason why they do it like this is because this is built hand in hand with their customers. So like we're talking Workday, BlackRock, eBay, I think. A lot of companies use Deep Agent, and you can use it through like providers or environments like AWS and stuff like that as of like 2 days ago as well. No, that's Langsmith. I'll take that back. But saying that, so that's the harness, and then there's the AI SDK from Vercel. So this used to be just like a model router slash like use one interface to build with any model, so you don't have to learn a bunch of different SDKs or install them. Now they allow you to do harness swapping. So yeah, let's imagine this is AI SDK 7. By the way, this is still I think alpha, or yeah. So it's still in the work. You can use it, but it's not production ready. Obviously, it's not GA yet. But essentially, before you can do model routing. Now you can also do harness routing. Oh, my iPad is now lagging. Harness routing. So what does this mean? This means using the same code interface. You can call Codex SDK. You can call Pi SDK, and you can also call Claude Agent SDK. You don't have to install 3 different packages, and you can use the same code for any of them, which makes your life a lot easier, by the way. And it works with the old AI SDK streaming interface, which means that if you have like a front end application and stuff like that, you can consume that stream easily and not have to write additional code to consume it. If I were to start today, I mean, I really hope that they launch this soon. I would use this to kind of like just try a bunch of different harnesses. AI SDK 7. Yeah. So, what is the next thing? You want to look into an orchestrator. So an orchestrator basically means that you get a task coming in, right? Get a task. I think my iPad is very slow, and I don't know why. So you got a task coming in, and then oh my god, task coming in, and then it hits the orchestrator, and then the orchestrator would pass it to the right agents. So it'll pass it to the CRM agent, which does like CRM queries, 2 R's. We'll pass it on to like the invoice agent, something like that, and then so on and so forth. And each of these could be a different harness. They don't have to be the same harness. So like this could be Omnigent from Databricks. This just came out like 2 days ago, and has all these things built in, and you can like do orchestration stuff like that easily. CRM agent could be like your deep agent, and then this could be like I don't know, like Codex SDK. So now you have the option to, first and foremost, save a bunch of money by routing the right task to the right agent and not have the big brain agent do everything, because that's usually expensive, right? Not only that, but also you kind of hedge against like, okay, so like if one harness provider is like down, at least you still have existing code to like implement any of these things. And then some harnesses are better for other things, like Claude Code. Claude Agent SDK obviously is great at code and traversing file system, but it might be overkill for like a classification task that doesn't require a file system. In that case, you just want to like write a small agent loop using Pi harness, or using like just your classic AI SDK lightweight loop. So that's orchestration. And you can build more agents, obviously, like SQL writing agent or whatever. And the next thing is this is like arguably more important than the other ones that I just mentioned. You need a router, a model router. Model router. So why is this important? Let's see. So model router could also be called a model gateway. A model router, model gateway, usually the same thing. Let's just take the Langsmith LLM gateway as an example. And you have like Open Router, you have like whatever. They're all the same thing. They're all trying to solve the same problem essentially. But let's take a LLM router from Langsmith, which is a LangChain product. So how it works is like the request is sent to the gateway, which then picks the model. So you don't send the request directly to the model or the model provider. Instead, you send it to a gateway, and then the gateway will do a bunch of stuff before it picks the model. So some of the things it'll do, for example, check spend limits. So recently, like a lot of companies like Uber have realized that if you don't put a spend limit on the amount of tokens that people use at their company, they will go crazy and use a lot of tokens, which cost them a lot of money. Which is another argument that you can make for using different types of small models. And I will talk about like one final thing at the end as well that could potentially help you with this. But a gateway would check the spend limit. It will check for PII. This is very important for enterprise. PII stands for personal identifiable information. So your social security numbers and stuff like that. You can actually stop at the gateway level, and a lot of the gateways of the routers have very low latency. So like this just be like instant like that. Yeah, and then also like if it's good enough, if it has built-in tracing, like Langsmith, it'll actually trace that, trace the call automatically for you. If you don't use Langsmith LM router, you don't have that, but you can build that yourself. Like it's just a good pattern. So the gateway lets people use different coding agents, different models without losing control over. The whole point is control. So people can use a router, and then they can use like Cursor, Codex, Claude Code, and other tools, and also in production in your application as well, not just for internal usage. This helps with the bills, and also help you not be surprised by like, oh, models get cut off. We have to rebuild the entire internal stack. Also, think about open weights, and open source models. When we talk about this, we talk about Qwen, Kimi. We talk about GLM. Talk about DeepSeek. Right. Also talk about Cohere. Cohere just dropped Cohere North Mini. So that looks like this. Cohere North Mini code. From testing, this model is not super competitive, even like compared to open source models from China. But this is the right direction. Like we want companies to do more of this kind of stuff. Like we don't want companies to launch more models that are hidden behind an API wall and have no idea if tomorrow we're going to have access to it, in the case of like Fable. But we want companies to be doing this. Like when they launched this, they compared this to I think Mistral's models, which is not that competitive. But again, the theme here is AI sovereignty. So you want options, and this is a good direction. This is a good direction for the company to go. And we want more of these kinds of models. So these are the models that, you can take them, use them right off the shelves. A lot of times they work. A lot of times they don't. You can use, you don't have to self-host them. Sometimes people think about open source models and they're like, oh, if I use it internally or on my computer, do I need to be able to run 32 billion parameters model? You need a beefy computer to do that. Like for example, like this model right here, I think they require one H100 to run it. So you can also use their API. The thing is, if the API is down, and if they take away that from you, then you can still have other options to like download the model somewhere else to run inference against it. The key here is option. I mean, it's not glamorous like Fable, but it gives you option. Use it through the API. API is down. You got options to use it somewhere else. Same model, which means you don't have to change the way you prompt. Your agent is structured. Your system prompt. Any of that stuff. It's the same model. It's just that you're inferencing it from somewhere else. So there's that. And last but not least, I think you guys should know about this by now, but fine-tuning. So fine-tuning's back. I used to be one of those people that used to advocate for just use the best closed source model to get your prototype up and running for your team to get somewhere quickly. But usually now at this point, when we're looking at projects with our customers and like what our friends are working on, a lot of times the after the POC, like people start to think about, okay, can we just pick a Qwen or open source model and then make sure that that model is up to par in terms of like quality compared to like the Opus 4.7 or GPT 5.5 that we had in our POC. And then from there, if we can't get there by prompting or by just harness engineering or context management, then we'll start thinking about fine tuning. And they've gotten a lot of good results. It's 2026. And fine tuning is kind of like really simple, even if you don't know how to do fine tuning. Even like Hugging Face has like agent skills that allows you to tell Claude Code to fine tune stuff for you. So what I would do is I would give fine tuning and a look as well. If the problem that you're facing are you want to own the model, you want to reduce. Why is my handwriting so bad? Hold on. You want to reduce costs, and you want to maybe not be surprised. Yeah, that's pretty much it. A couple of ways that you can do this to kind of like be safe. And last but not least, in order to do any of these things effectively, you need really good evals. This could be like vibe testing. Vibe testing is considered evals. At least do error analysis, which we'll talk about another day. But if you don't have evals, you don't know if you're hill climbing or not. You don't know if you're improving your harness or anything, or if it's regressing. So think about evals. Think about what good looks like if you can collect that data, start tracing, and then